Nintendo Switch has games.
Little did we know at the time just how right they were going to be.
So let's quickly clarify the clickbaity title I went with today. Between the Switch 1's launch in March 2017 to the Switch 2's launch in June 2025, Nintendo alone is responsible for well over 100 different first-party games, and then you throw some notable exclusives in there from third parties, and yeah, undeniably, the Switch is going to go down as one of the strongest console libraries of all time. And you know what? Let's continue the narrative that all AntDude plays is Nintendo games today, huh? Today we're going to talk about every single one of those first-party games. Every single one of them. I have, over the last 8 years, actually played like 95% of the Switch games that Nintendo themselves have published, as well as a bunch of those exclusives. And you know what? There's no better time than now to talk about literally all of them. Why not? May as well cover all my bases before we move on to greener and more expensive and slightly bigger Joy-Con shaped pastures. Mario Kart World for $80? Gotta start saving up a year ago. And just so this video doesn't remain in its own little pocket of time, games like Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, Rhythm Heaven Groove, Tomodachi Life, they will not be here. Anything Switch 1 related releasing after the Switch 2 will go in its own category later on, so I don't know, maybe in 8 years when I do a ranking every Switch 2 game video, we can circle back on them. Sound good? Besides, I already know you're more interested in my opinion on the stretchers. So let's stop prolonging it, huh? We have over 120 games to talk about today. That's a whole lot of content. Let's get to it.
Good job.
I mean, it's a long video, of course there's an ad read. God, AntDude's content used to be so much better. We are back at it again with Raycon's everyday earbuds, which, believe it or not, are the perfect gift for your mom this upcoming Big Mother's Day. Whether she's busy at work, hitting the gym, watching your favorite video game-based YouTuber, or taking one of her million phone calls and embarrassing you in real time, this will give her the gift of premium audio that goes where she goes. And the value is undeniable. You get a 32-hour battery life, multi-point connectivity, wireless charging capability, active noise cancellation, all starting at half the price as other premium audio brands. What else can you ask for? Now honestly, like genuinely, I've become a big fan of these since they first worked with me a few years ago. I've really enjoyed my time with these earbuds. I've been going more to the gym lately, and these have been my perfect walking companion. Plus, they also come in a wide spectrum of vibrant colors and cases, so you can mix and match to your mom's style perfectly. Maybe this blue earbud and galaxy case combo is exactly what she wants. It's certainly my favorite combination. And of course, no worries, if your mom is not liking her Raycons, they do offer a 30-day happiness guarantee return. No questions asked. So what are you waiting for? Go to buyraycon.com/AntDude to get 15% off site-wide. There's literally no better deal whatsoever on this planet. Thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring today's video, and now, time to go over 100 plus video games, baby. Let's go. For the rest of this video, we're going to categorize the games based on the franchises they're a part of, but starting off here, I feel like we really need to dive into the Wii U port phenomenon because there were so many of these, arguably too many, but when you really look back at all the games that were ported over, some as basic ports, some with new content, it's quite the interesting range. You got things like Bayonetta 1 and 2, and in the case of 2, yeah, it's just a port, but it does perform a little bit better, so that's pretty cool. I think Breath of the Wild kind of counts in that conversation too, even though it did release like at the same time as the Wii U version, it is technically a port, so we can categorize that here too. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe was more or less the same game, but it did introduce the Super Crown for Peachette, which irreversibly changed what the term Mario fan art means for the rest of eternity. You got Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which they charged more than the Wii U game at $60, and the only thing that was added was Funky Kong, and the only reason I was okay with it is because it's one of the greatest 2D platformers of all time, but still, that was strange. But really, for the rest of these, there was either one edition or a bunch of editions that did make it the worthwhile version if you were still holding onto your Wii U for years and years. The Switch version actually has the better version of the game. Take a look at Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. Like, yeah, you got some weird things like the minecart segments that had first-person mode with the Wii U gamepad, now is all kind of cool, is now one screen. There's levels based on Mario Odyssey now, which is an improvement over the 3D World levels from the original. And overall, it would be considered like on par, if not a bit of a downgrade, but then they also randomly gave the game paid DLC with local multiplayer. That's just kind of cool. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition included all of the content from the 3DS version, and that's awesome, and I really hope they were going to do that with Yoshi's Woolly World, but alas, that was never in the cards. Pokken Tournament DX also had DLC for 2 brand new characters, and that's so random, I don't even think anybody really cared about that, but they did it. Tokyo Mirage Sessions included a bunch of quality of life enhancements, as well as the recently released Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which, man, changed so much about the core gameplay loop that it is just incredible and one of the best efforts of any game that's ported from the Wii U for sure. Super Mario 3D World increased all of the characters' speed, and man, I didn't think I wanted the characters to be faster when I played the original game, but now going and playing this one, it is so hard to go back. This is such a good version of the game, and that's not even counting Bowser's Fury. But my favorite Wii U to Switch port has to go to Pikmin 3 Deluxe, which not only included the DLC from the original version, but also brought in co-op. The Piccolopedia was back. They modified the controls to work with gyroscope on the Pro Controller. There were achievements, brand new difficulty options, side stories for more content. Like, there was so much here, far more than any other game coming over from that console. Unless, of course, you count Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is one of the greatest selling games of all time, and then you got the Booster Course Pass on top of them fixing battle mode and introducing new amiibo costumes. Cool, but you tell me you don't kinda miss the gamepad screen that has like the horn on it where you can push the button and it goes murmur and that's it? I don't know, is the Switch version really definitive if it doesn't have that? A lot of other third-party games from the Wii U made the jump over, like Wonderful 101, Fatal Frame, Lego City Undercover, Ninja Gaiden, Scribblenauts. I don't know if I would ever say that the Wii U is completely dead until basically every single game gets ported over, like Kirby and the Rainbow Curse and Game & Wario. There's still some substance there for sure, but while a lot of people would argue that Nintendo spent far too much time with the ports when they could have been spending a lot more time on new games, I overall think that this initiative was a success. Some of the ports are lazier than others, some of the ports, like Funky Kong, were a lot more money hungry than others, but most of the Wii U's excellent first-party games are now on the Switch, and that's awesome. Going forward, we're going to be ranking the games individually, but I just had to figure this big disclaimer, we had to get it out of the way right now because this whole port situation, oh, it was crazy. There was so much quality here. Hey look, it's the guy, it's the Big M himself, it's Red Luigi. There's obviously a wide gambit of Mario games on the Switch, but for this first section, we're gonna cover what I just think are the quote-unquote mainline Mario games, so the platformers. Let's talk about the Mario platformers. On the 3D side, the star of the show is Mario Odyssey, but we also have 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, as well as 3D All-Stars. And on the 2D side, we have Super Mario Bros. Wonder as the star of the show, but also have New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, Super Mario Maker 2, Mario 35, I guess, and also Mario vs. Donkey Kong Remake, because I didn't think it deserved to be in a spin-off section, so it's here instead. I think we can just go ahead and give the stars of the show, Odyssey and Wonder, both S's. Just creativity overload from start to finish, and just magical experiences from the title screen to the end credits and beyond. I am on the side who does think that Odyssey is a little overrated. The usual too many power moons argument that you've heard before, but even still, it's a fantastic game. Wonder, on the other hand, the wow factor has not ended for me yet. Just an incredible game. There's so many good things about it that I can't give it anything lower than an S. And you know what? I'm gonna say the 3D World plus Bowser's Fury combo pack also deserves an S. My hot take is I actually prefer 3D World to Odyssey. I just prefer my 3D Mario to be linear. What are you gonna do? By simply having that base Wii U game but all the characters control faster, that's all I needed, man. It's a damn near perfect game. And then Bowser's Fury is in the same package, this open world Mario playground where everything is a cat and you can turn Super Saiyan and Bowser is super pissed. It's only a few hours long, but damn, that few hours, man, I would even argue that alone is better than Mario Odyssey. Odyssey is good, of course, don't get me wrong, but they were cooking on something completely next level with this 3D World Bowser's Fury combo pack. 3D All-Stars includes some of the best and most influential 3D platformers of all time, and all of those games deserve like S or A ranks depending on how you're feeling that day for sure, but this package, I gotta give this package a B. Such a missed opportunity to use the All-Stars name and only include 3 Mario games, no Galaxy 2, and just have the soundtracks as a bonus. No artwork, no instruction manual prints, no nothing. Like, wow, they really fumbled that one, huh? Plus the limited release thing, holy. If you want to get a physical, you better get it soon. It's already going up in price, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. Shame, because Galaxy is like my favorite game of all time, but can't give this package anything higher than a B. Think I'll say the same thing for New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. These are perfectly fine Mario games. I prefer New Super Luigi U to Mario Bros. U, so I'm happy that's there. I will still never forgive Nintendo for introducing the Super Crown to the masses, because Peachette, fine enough, I guess, but man, the things the fan art community has done, my brain is irreparable after that, so no thank you. The sting of the lack of creativity in NSMB doesn't hit as hard now that Wonder is here, but even still, B. I think a solid B for this game, and that almost goes for every new Super Mario Bros. Game, honestly. While we're at it, the Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake, that gets a B as well. I was always a DK94 guy. Mario vs. Donkey Kong and the GBA didn't hit anywhere near as strong, but this is a super solid remake. It looks really good. It has some of the best HD rumble of any first-party game, with like every footstep rumbling the controller in a different way. It's way better than it has any right to be, and it's super cool that they added 2 brand new worlds, but I still come out of this game going, Mario Maker 2 though? Oh, that's getting an A for sure. Obviously, when it comes to ongoing support, Nintendo dropped the ball completely. You would think that there would be so many new things coming every single month and leading into a year with the big celebration, but they didn't really do that. They did a couple events here or there. They had one big blowout update with like the World Maker, and then they had Link as a character, and that was about it. That sucks. But even still, what's here and the content that you can play from the servers, so much fun. And the single player story mode, this does not get enough love. I love this. It's the same with the 3DS version of the first Maker having a single player mode. I love that too. On the basis of it being based on 5 different Mario games, plus there's so many more creative opportunities out of there with different items and enemies and whatnot, I enjoyed this campaign way more than NSMBU Deluxe. Just gotta really hope they lock in for Mario Maker 3. Mouse mode with the Joy-Cons already gives me many high expectations. And then Mario 35, you can't play it anymore. It was only there for like a year, not even, and it was fine, I guess. There was no Tetris 99. It was pretty repetitive. You played 1-1 a lot. Whatever. It's a dead game. I'm just gonna give it a D. And yeah, that's Mario's main lineup. A few missteps for sure, but honestly, this is like the most varied Mario platformer lineup on any Nintendo console, period. So good on you, Mario. The console's color is like just the same as your hat, so I would hope it'd be good. Maybe they revive Mario 35 for the next anniversary and we get Mario 40. Who knows? Oh boy, Pokemon on Switch was weird. So much of the dialogue around Pokemon is simply the whole idea that, hey, these games perform like garbage, and that's it. We're talking about like just 2 games out of all of them that happen to perform, quite bad. Yeah, it's quite bad. But you know what? I'll be honest, maybe this is a hot take. I think in terms of the main Pokemon games, the output was a lot better than what we got on the 3DS, so that's an improvement. Sword and Shield didn't blow me away by any means, but I did kind of enjoy what they were going for here. The art style's kind of neat. I like the Gigantamaxing a little bit. I think the arena battles for the gym leaders, that stuff was cool. It was just a pretty traditional Pokemon game with an open world mechanic that, honestly, I didn't think was all that good, but it was still a fine game. I'd give that generation a B. But it was Scarlet and Violet that honestly, I love these games. This might be my favorite gen, actually. Yes, it looks and runs like garbage on Switch 1 hardware, I get it. But I really love the story. I love this cast of characters. I really enjoy all the new Pokemon that we got. I felt invested in this adventure and the journey I was going on in this big open world. Even if, yeah, it ran at frames per second. Just a few of them. Just a few frames. Plus the end game is like godly. Like, it's the best endgame out of any Pokemon game thus far. I am not excusing how poor the performance is because it should not be this way, but I still had a really good time. I'm gonna give Scarlet and Violet an A. But you know what? Doesn't matter. The best Pokemon game this generation was Pokemon Legends Arceus. Finally, exactly what I wanted a Pokemon game to be for so long, a proper single-player RPG. Battle mechanics are slightly modified with the Swift and Strong styles. I loved a lot of the little changes, like being able to stealthily go behind Pokemon and just throw a Pokeball at them to catch them. Love that. That was super fun, and then like shiny catching is more enjoyable in this game than in any other Pokemon game in my opinion. The time travel story and this older art style. Also an incredibly well thought out endgame. And also just the sound effects, dude. The sound effects trigger my neurons like no other Pokemon game ever has. If you want to be that guy and compare this game directly to something like Xenoblade or Breath of the Wild and go, wow, look how bad Game Freak and Pokemon Company are with their budget spending and game development. Wow, that's terrible. I get it. But that's not going to be me. On a pure gameplay experience, this is my favorite pure Pokemon RPG of all time. It's getting an S, and I am incredibly excited for ZA. And then on the remake front, we got Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, another remake of the Gen 1 Pokemon games, but more so to coincide with Pokemon Go, the mobile game. Random encounters no longer have a traditional battle system, you just catch them. It takes that original title that is incredibly dated, let's be honest here, and speeds up the pace dramatically that makes this my favorite version of this gen. it's still a bare bones and pretty repetitive experience, and it's still very annoying they can only play the game when it's docked with a singular Joy-Con or that weird Pokeball controller. That sucks. But once again, had a good time with it. I'm gonna give Pokemon Let's Go a B. Plus, they finally gave a big old box art spotlight for Eevee, and I gotta give them props for that, because I was an Eevee boy, not a Pikachu boy. That spotlight is well deserved. However, the next remake was Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and I hope I don't make anyone too mad with this, but Gen 4 is one of my least favorite ones in the entire lineup, for sure, and the fact that this includes no Platinum content is mind-boggling to me. And they didn't really add anything substantially new like they did with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And yeah, sure, you could argue if the games even needed that in the first place, but at least it made the adventure kind of exciting. This is just, they remade the game. They certainly took that game and made it again. And I don't like Diamond and Pearl. It's gonna sound harsh, but I at least could stomach playing through the other games. I'm gonna give this a D. I'm sorry if you're a fan of Gen 4, but that's not for me. So in terms of proper Pokemon games, like the range is quite dramatic. And for the spin-offs, yeah, that range is still there too. Dude, Pokemon Cafe Remix sucks. And they spend so much time in every Pokemon Direct trying to act like this is a big game. It sucks. It's probably fine as a mobile game, but they did release it on Switch, and I don't like it. It's one of the most mind-numbing puzzle-ish games of all time. That's gonna get an F. You know, I'm just gonna say it. That's gonna get an F. That is not worth your time. And honestly, same goes for Pokemon Quest. This art style is lame, the gameplay is almost non-existent, and this is another mobile game that they released on Switch. If you're gonna do that, at least make it of the good games. I would prefer Magikarp Jump to get a Switch port over this, okay? Pokemon Quest also getting an F. I'm not taking that back. We already touched on Pokken Tournament DX, and I do enjoy this game. I feel like competitively, I'll never really get super into it because the mechanics kind of feel all over the place, but on a casual level, I do kind of enjoy what they're going with here. I feel like it's a game that truly needs a sequel to polish up all the details, and I don't know if we'll ever get that. So as it stands, it's interesting that they added more stuff over the Wii U game for sure, but even still, I'm sticking to a C on this one. Oh man, and then they made a second Detective Pikachu. I don't really understand the appeal of this at all. Like, I don't like this at all. The Detective Pikachu thing, to me, nothing about it is sticking. The 3DS Detective Pikachu is one of my least favorite Pokemon games of all time, and this sequel, quite frankly, is no better. Like, I can kind of excuse how poor the mainline Pokemon games look because there's so many things that the game is trying to load in at once, I guess. But here, why does this look like an emulation of a 3DS game? This looks so bad. The story is lame, the gameplay is boring. Dude, I don't know. Am I crazy to also put this in an F? I don't care, I already said it, it's getting an F. I really just wanted to go through the bulk of those spin-offs to have my major final point here. That new Pokemon Snap is one of the greatest games that Nintendo has ever put out. This was exactly what I wanted in a revival of Pokemon Snap and then some. So many Pokemon to capture, it looks gorgeous, replayability is off the charts. They added multiple new stages post-launch for free, and it sounds cheesy to say, but when a game hits you and it feels magical, you know it. New Pokemon Snap to me is a magical experience. This is also going to get an S. The range of quality with the Pokemon franchise on the Nintendo Switch is all over the place, but the combination of Legends Arceus and new Pokemon Snap, this to me is one of the best consoles for Pokemon ever. And I'm sure that's not going to be a divisive statement whatsoever. The fact that Bayonetta has a 4-game-long series at this point because Nintendo decided to fund the franchise with Bayonetta 2 is still wild to me, because not only do we have Bayonetta 1 and 2 on the Switch, which are some of the greatest action beat-em-ups of all time, and I'm still blown away with how Bayonetta 2 looks. Like, graphically, it is still phenomenal to this day, and the bombastic nature of everything you do in the games at all times is something to still be in awe of. These are both some of Platinum Games' finest works that are not without problems, for sure. This style of gameplay definitely already inherently leads to some frustrations, but A ranks across the board, no questions asked. Plus, you got like a Samus costume that you can put in, and that's just cool. That's badass as hell, dude. But more interestingly, as an exclusive, we finally got Bayonetta 3, and opinions on this game have been all over the place. For one, performance-wise, it definitely doesn't look or play as well as Bayonetta 2 did, and that's upsetting because they managed to do so much with the Wii U that when it came to the Switch game here, it still looks fine, but you can tell that it's very clearly not as detailed, and I'm not really sure why that's the case. People also really complain about the story, like the whole multiversal idea with Bayonetta now, and people really don't like the ending. I'm gonna be real with you, I don't play Bayonetta for the story, never have. It's always been an incoherent mess as far as I'm concerned. It's not like it's impossible to follow what's going on in Bayonetta 1 and 2, but realistically, the plot in Bayonetta is just a means to do the crazy that you end up doing. And my hottest take of the bunch so far is gameplay-wise, Bayonetta 3 is actually my favorite. I just simply really like how Bayonetta plays. I like the ability to summon these big old monsters and have them fight for you while you're running around. I even really enjoyed the Viola segments, and yeah, there were some control issues with her at launch that did detract from my experience that has since been patched, and that's nice. I think my final verdict is that there are definitely higher highs in Bayonetta 1 and 2, but as an overall experience, 3 is actually my favorite one of the bunch. It's still good and get an A, so across the board 1, 2, and 3 all get A ranks. I think I just accepted that I play Bayonetta for slightly different reasons than some other people do. If you don't like it at all, more power to you. Who knows what the future of this franchise is going to be, but if we can call this just a full-fledged Bayonetta 1, 2, 3 a trilogy, I'm super happy with it. But then the spin-off, Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, I think this is a big ol' hidden gem. Having it under the Bayonetta name messes with your expectations from top to bottom. But I went into this knowing that it was going to be like a more lighthearted, storybook-like adventure with this dual analog control where you control as Cereza and the right stick you can play as Cheshire, this big monster cat. I really love the presentation, I liked the combat, I love the puzzle solving. It's very repetitive, it reminds me of like an experimental Xbox 360 era indie game, but there's a lot of charm in that to me, so I'm gonna give this a B. I think this game was doomed to fail because it released with the Bayonetta title so soon after 3, which had its divisive audience. But I came out of this really enjoying it, and I do hope they're more experimental with the Bayonetta franchise going forward. Everything is up in the air with Kamiya leaving Platinum Games and going on to make a sequel to Okami, which is a great future to have. And I do have faith that Platinum will still give us a pretty fun game with whatever Bayonetta does in the future, but as it stands on Switch, that's a pretty damn solid lineup. You should play Bayonetta. Oh, and while we're at it, I may as well throw Astral Chain into this mix as well. I mean, it's a heavy action game by Platinum Studios. It kind of fits, right? Dude, Astral Chain is sick. If you want the bombastic hand-to-hand combat with some gun gameplay that Bayonetta already has, but just in like this crazy cop and like weird future aesthetic, but you can also just like summon these stand powers where you can control a different entity and you're connected by a chain and then you can tie your enemies together and do more damage that way. Like this is a bonkers video game. The skill ceiling is dramatically higher than Bayonetta, but if you really like Bayonetta and maybe you're someone who was kind of let down by Bayonetta 3, Astral Chain may be the game for you. It's already part of the title, Astral Chain getting an A. Capital A for Astral Chain. It feels more like a Bayonetta game than Bayonetta Origins did, so it has to go here, right? Throughout these 8 years, there were a bunch of games that Nintendo released that don't really fit into any franchise necessarily, at least on just the Switch itself, so a lot of solo games here. Now's the time we get to knock them out. Something like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I mean, what do you want me to say about this, right? I mean, it's an S tier, correct? Like, we're not really gonna argue this. Sakurai understood the assignment that he was told he was gonna make the ultimate version of Super Smash Bros. And then put every little fiber of his being into this to make sure it had every character he had ever wanted, and then some, because I'm sure he didn't want Incineroar in there, but the Nintendo overlords told him he had to. I think the hype cycle for this game that damn near felt like it lasted a century did damage to my health and took years off my life that I'm never gonna get back, but the final product is nothing short of phenomenal, and I do not think that is up for a debate. Even if you're someone who's like, I don't know, I like how Smash 4 plays better. That's a weird take, but I respect it. Doesn't matter. The content overload in Smash Ultimate is warranting an S, no question. And I have some pretty similar opinions on Animal Crossing New Horizons as well. Similar to Mario Maker 2, I definitely think Nintendo fumbled when it comes to ongoing support. Like the fact that Pocket Camp seemingly never stopped getting new things, while New Horizons was just sort of left there, is crazy to me. And a lot of this probably has to do with 2020 and the fact that most of us had like no choice but to play this game. Did it a ton of good. It just wasn't the definitive Animal Crossing experience that I and I think many others would have wanted. Still a fantastic game that I spent like well over 100 hours in, and I know people have put well over 1,000 hours in, but as it stands, gonna give it an A. What next? Miitopia was weird, huh? That was a weird game to get a full remake of, right? It's weird, right? Because like mechanically Miitopia is not that in-depth of an RPG, it's just the fact that you can throw your Miis into there and have them do a wacky, playful adventure. Like there's this one enemy that's 3 tomatoes on top of each other and I made them Ed, Ed, and Eddie. Bro, why not? The Mii creator and people sharing their creations online is what made this game. If this did not have that, this would probably get like a C or D rank, honestly, but that level of pure serotonin for making this adventure whatever it is you want it to be, I'm at least gonna say that's worth a B. If you're looking for like a Switch RPG to really dive into, like this really doesn't satisfy that need, but as just a pure wacky adventure, this game did everything right, and I'm sure was the catalyst for them finally making a full sequel to Tomodachi Life all these years later. Speaking of revivals, we got Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, a very, in my opinion, graphically impressive remake of the two GBA games. If you're into tactical RPG that's not really all about story, you're just doing these missions ad nauseum with really endearing characters, this might be for you. I'm gonna give it a B, and I just hope this franchise isn't dead going forward. Ooh, another Code also got a remake with another Code Recollection. I fully acknowledge that I like this game a whole lot more than a lot of other people do, because I'm gonna give this a B as well. Taking the DS and Wii games and completely reimagining them from the ground up with this behind-the-shoulder perspective, with a really charming story that's almost a little bit relatable, and doesn't really do anything super crazy with these jump-the-shark plot points, you know? I really enjoyed my time with this, and I'm just in awe that it exists, because what a random niche part of Nintendo's history to revive in such a strong fashion. If you like story-based games, I highly recommend this one. And dude, on that same topic, Famicom Detective Club came back? Like, are you kidding me? We got 3 games on the Switch, 2 remakes, and 1 brand new game. The marketing strategy for Emio was wild, and I can't believe that this crazy, creepy new character just turned out to be a new Famicom Detective game, but that means there is a retail store listing for a Famicom Detective Club game in 2024, and that's insane. I really like visual novels, so I liked these a whole lot. Similar to another Code, these don't jump the shark as much as, say, like Ace Attorney or Danganronpa, but these are really cool, stylized detective stories that I really think you should give a shot. By being a visual novel that doesn't do anything super crazy, the ceiling is quite low, but I think solid Bs across the board. The Girl Who Stands Behind, The Missing Heir, and Emio the Smiling Man, a trilogy of Famicom Detective Club on the Switch. That's awesome. Can't forget how Nintendo started the Switch's life with ARMS and then Sushi Striker, like back to back. Look at that, 2 new IPs, huh? Right? I mean, I kinda like ARMS, but there's not really a whole lot to do, but I did have a lot of fun with it in 2017. It definitely fit the niche of needing a more gimmicky game on launch that wasn't 1-2 Switch, so you know what, ARMS, I'll give it a solid C. At least it had a really cool art style. Can't say the same for Sushi Striker though. What a not fun game this is. I will say it mostly comes down to the control. Sushi Striker also released on the 3DS, and having full touchscreen for this, where you're just dragging across all of these different plates to match all the same colors and then shoot them off of your opponent. You can do that with the Switch when it's undocked, and then its controller when it's docked, and it just doesn't really feel that good. The story is weird and not all that great. The characters aren't all that endearing. The story about sushi being outlawed, like, it's a weird game, but I have zero reason to recommend this. I'm gonna give it a D. Oh, but Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. I think I enjoy this one more than most people as well. Obviously, they were kinda trying to capture the vibes of NES Remix on the Wii U, but making it more competition themed. And I really think the only major issue is it didn't have as much content as it should have. What's here is really cool, but you go through that content so quickly, and there's no signs of DLC. It was a really fun time for like the 3 or 4 days I spent so many hours on it and then had zero desire to really go back to it, so I don't know. I think that's warranting a C. Oh man, going back to revivals, there's a new Cruisin' game that's Switch exclusive. Isn't that crazy? This was an arcade game that got a console port, but the Cruisin' license is still Nintendo owned. This is a Nintendo IP, and this racing game is bonkers. So many bright colors, everything's moving at Mach speed, some of the vehicles are crazy, the music is super bombastic, the races finish in like no time flat. Oh dude, it's so much fun, I love this game. Cruisin' Blast is getting an A. And that sort of covered all of the solo games that were released from Nintendo. I mean, people want original games every so often, right? Not just established franchises, so maybe this did the job for you? I don't know. I mean, there's also the likes of Daemon X Machina, which Nintendo helped publish. That was like a kind of okay game. It was probably like a solid C, right? There's Buddy Mission Bond. That was a strange one. That's a Japanese exclusive. Looks like a pretty cool detective game, but I guess I'll never know, so I can't even pretend to give it a ranking because it's Japanese only. That's a shame. But the biggest surprises of them all, the 1-2 punch of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and DC Superhero Girls, both published by Nintendo. Switch exclusives, Nintendo put their money behind them. Sick. I'm gonna be honest, at the start of this video, I said I played like 95% of the exclusive lineup. I don't have an opinion on these. These are part of the 5%. I apologize, I have no real knowledge on DC Superhero Girls. I guess you can call me a fake Nintendo fan. That's fair. I mean, they're all gonna be S tier, right? Is that what you want me to say? No one can do it better than the Pink Puff. What can I say? It's funny, because I've done videos on every single one of these Kirby games, you can actually chronicle my initial worry with this franchise on the Switch. Kirby on 3DS was killing it from start to finish. Even though the Extra Epic Yarn port is weird, 3DS had a fantastic Kirby lineup. So on Switch, when we got the first game with Kirby Star Allies, oh boy, okay. This game really didn't do it for me at launch, and I still think this campaign is one of the more boring ones in the entire series. It's certainly not a terrible game, and lore-wise, oh man, there's a whole lot to digest there. But it wasn't until all of the post-launch DLC with the guest star mode, with all the fan service in that Star Allies became a much more enjoyable package, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a B. If it didn't have the guest star inclusions and it was just the single-player mode, it would be way lower, but I think a B is fair. And then we got digital offerings that were just follow-ups of 3DS games, Super Kirby Clash and Kirby Fighters 2. The former actually having a bunch of microtransactions, oh boy. Both of these games are fine, but they don't really do enough to stand out from the 3DS originals outside of just having better graphics. If you spend all the money out of the gate for Super Kirby Clash, you will have a decent time. If you dedicate enough time to get used to the roguelike mode in Kirby Fighters 2, you'll have a decent time there as well. But there's just no staying power with these. Like Kirby Fighters 2 had online play, and those servers were basically dead on day 2, dare I say day 1. Really is a shame, because the whole action RPG kind of idea, or the Smash Bros. Clone kind of idea, really has a lot of potential with Kirby. And again, games are not terrible, but the lack of originality really stings. I'm gonna give both these games C's. So yeah, the first few years, I was kind of worried for the future of the pink puffball, but then Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Dude, this game is an absolute gem. It definitely helps that Kirby jumped into the third dimension so late in his life, but this jump to 3D is one of the most seamless transitions I've ever seen for any character ever. This is exactly what a Kirby game in 3D needs to be. That, yeah, on a creative level, yeah, I do wish there were some more original themes going on there, like the post-apocalyptic stuff, really cool. But outside of that, this is just a Kirby game in 3D. It just so happens that simple of a premise is enough to make this a certified masterpiece. And I have no doubt the Switch 2 port with a better frame rate and additional story content is gonna be even better. But even without that Switch 2 content, this Switch 1 game, that's an easy S. Easy S for sure. They knocked it out of the park and showed they still have the sauce after Kirby Star Allies showed, oh boy, I thought they were running out of it. No, they still got it. And then they followed up with Kirby's Dream Buffet. This game does unfortunately suffer from a similar issue with there not being a ton of lasting power, but you know what? At least it's a kind of original idea. It is definitely like following the trend of a Fall Guy styled battle royale, but it's just really fun. Rolling around as Kirby and getting all fat and being completely surrounded from every single inch of this world with different fan service, from having these cookies that have a bunch of sprites on them, remixes from games like Pinball Land and whatnot that you never really get to hear. I really enjoy this game. It's just a shame that the servers died out immediately. If Nintendo focused more on actually getting a built-up community here, obviously it would be a more worthwhile experience, but me just sitting by myself playing this multiplayer game, gotta give it a B for that. It's a shame. The potential, like the other digital games, is very high, but all they need is that community element, and I hope they nail that in the future. And the final pink game on the Switch was a remaster of Kirby's Return to Dreamland with Deluxe. Honestly, this is one of the most okay Kirby games of all time because, like, yeah, it just hits all of the notes that you possibly would want. It doesn't really do anything interesting with the art style or mechanics like Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot would do, but this is just a really fun, almost new Super Mario Bros.-esque take on the Kirby franchise. And it was a return after so long. We just kind of wanted a traditional Kirby game, and damn it, we got that. But hey, we got some sleek new visuals, a bunch of remade minigames from Kirby's past. They used a different King Dedede design, which I just think is funny. And the Magolor Epilogue mode is a surprisingly really deep addition to this game. Completely changes how your main character powers up throughout the adventure, and the end game of that mode specifically is one of the greatest things this franchise has ever done. Return to Dreamland is not close to my favorite Kirby game, but Deluxe deserves a lot of credit for adding a lot more new things than, like, I don't know, you look at Donkey Kong Country Returns HD and they barely touch that up, so of course, Kirby gets more love. Return to Dreamland Deluxe gets an A. Starting off pretty worrisome there, Carbo, but at the end of the life cycle, Kirby was knocking it out of the park. Can't wait to see what the Switch 2 has in store. And you know I'll be there for every single game, because I can't help myself. I couldn't simply throw the RPGs into a generic Mario spin-off section. We got 6 different role-playing games over the entirety of the Switch's life in a wide variety of different ways. We got 2 beautiful remakes of all-time classics with Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, 2 brand new games, and one from a franchise that we all thought was probably dead with Mario & Luigi Brothership and Paper Mario the Origami King, and the most unique RPG duology on the console, Mario plus Rabbids with Kingdom Battle and Sparks of Hope. Here's my hot take, everybody, alright? I know some people have some strong opinions on Origami King, some people have some strong opinions on Brothership. My hot take is, all of these games are very, very good. Special credit has to go to the Ubisoft team that took Mario and Rabbids, an idea that should not have worked, and committed to the bit so hard without doing the cringy Rabbid thing of just having them yell at the top of their lungs every 2 seconds to make an actual, genuinely fun tactical RPG, and they did it twice. I think the simplicity of the grid-based battle system in Kingdom Battle is more enjoyable to the more free-roaming style of Sparks of Hope, but that second game also introduces a much more interesting story with a brand new Rabbid character, and equipables for all of your characters with these weird little Rabbid Luma creatures, the Sparks. Plus they both got some really cool DLC with the Rayman stuff in Sparks of Hope, and the whole Donkey Kong adventure in Kingdom Battle, which is like, you know, the only original Donkey Kong game on this console. Ain't that crazy? These are for sure entry-level tactical RPGs, but they're just so endearing and charming, and I love them so much. Both of these games get an A. Mario having a gun turns out worthwhile venture. And that level of charm and a commitment to a brand new world is something you would also expect from Mario and Luigi, and Brothership did give us that. You just have to deal with really, really slow pacing in a game that's like 10 to 15 hours too long to get to it. I really like Brothership because I put forth the effort to see it through to the end. And that's a weird thing to say, but the last 5 to 10 hours are so good, it made like the first 25 hours of like just a kind of okay experience worth it. It's a shame because the music's really good, the art style is really good, I like a lot of the new characters in the world, and once again, the endgame story, fantastic stuff, but it is just a slog to get there. I was really going back and forth with how I wanted to rank this game, but by the time the credits were rolling, I was tearing up, and to me that means something, so I'm gonna give it an A. It's a slow burn, for sure, and it doesn't touch the top of the Mario & Luigi franchise, but it's still a very fun game and a good return to this franchise that I really hope we do get more in the future. But the hottest take out of all of this is that Paper Mario Origami King is the best original Mario RPG on this console. I get it, okay, the sticker star adjacent style of Mario RPGs, it's very easy to hate on them because they're not going to give you the same level of serotonin that the classic Paper Mario games give you, but Origami King not only made the best out of a bad situation, but made an experience that has truly stuck with me over the years. No, it does not ooze the same amount of personality as you would want from a Paper Mario game, but aesthetically, this game is gorgeous. The soundtrack is fantastic. I really liked the puzzle-based battle system, even though I know that's not everyone's thing. I really enjoyed it. And even though some people calling the antagonists being office supplies really lazy, I actually think that's very clever. If we're gonna make a Paper Mario game that they acknowledge that they're paper, this is the best outcome we could get. I'm not saying I want this for future games, but what we got here, I still think is a damn fantastic time. And there's an emotional gut punch in this game that I still don't think I've recovered from because it is so anti-Nintendo to do that it's, oh man, oh if you know, you know. This is definitely the better of the 2 original Mario RPGs on this console, and I'm gonna go so far as to give it an S. I truly have very little wrong with this game. And if you've been someone who's been on the edge with this style of Paper Mario game for years, trust me, you may come out loving it too. But you know what? If you just stick to Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door, and Mario RPGs that were already S tiers on their original consoles, I mean, they're S tier here too. I mean, I'm not even gonna act like that's not gonna be the outcome. Of course that's gonna be the outcome. These are both some of the most, I can't believe these actually exist, games of all time. Getting to work with Square again to get a full-blown remake of Super Mario RPG that is so faithful to the art style with this very cute character design, and we finally got Geno back, holy cow. And the Thousand Year Door, bro, you kidding me? At the very least, I thought we could have gotten like a generic GameCube remaster and a cartridge and called it a day, but nah man, full-blown remake. Both of these RPGs, in my opinion, keep intact every single aspect that make the originals classics, while also introducing quality of life things that chop down the overall gameplay time, and introduce some brand new things that make it really rewarding to go back to for people who have played these originals multiple times over, like I have. After so many years of people worrying about the state of the Mario RPG subgenre, honestly being dominated by the Rabbids, my hope is that going back to the past and remaking these 2 gems of games means that in the future, we're going to get something even better because now they know what works. With 6 absolute gems here, the Switch is the best home for Mario RPGs. Mario Golf technically has like a bit of an RPG mode too, but we'll get to that. That doesn't deserve to be here. Gotta spend some time talking about the Switch eShop because oh boy, what a wild west this was, huh? It has progressively gotten just worse and worse over the years, and even with the Switch 2 being a thing, that's not gonna change the fact that the last few years of the Switch 1's eShop has been an absolute nightmare. Just AI slop and gooner games all over the place. Like, I just want some actual quality software here. Well, Nintendo did supply the goods. Sometimes. You remember Flip Wars? No, you don't. That's getting an F. It's a bad game. The eShop offerings are likely going to be dominated by the Battle Royale games like Tetris 99. What an excellent game this is. Honestly, this goes down as one of the greatest Tetris games of all time. The Battle Royale concept, as well as giving out fan service every few months with a new theme for a new game that's coming out, it's genius. And the best part about it, there's usually people to play with. No one wanted to play Kirby's Dream Buffet on day one, but dude, Tetris 99 years later, still a full lobby, that's awesome. It could be that I have an incredible Tetris bias, but Tetris 99, that's getting an S, and quite frankly, that's the only S-tier game that was primarily a digital game in this category. Already mentioned Mario 35, that wasn't all that great. Pac-Man 99 was a thing for like a year. I mean, that wasn't all that great too. Like, the Pac-Man formula didn't inherently work with the Battle Royale style as much as Tetris did, and even though there was a lot of fan service in there too, which I do appreciate, just playing a normal game of Pac-Man, but sometimes an extra ghost pops up, this is not for me. That's gonna get a D. But then many of you would go, oh, but what about F-Zero 99? That is the premier Battle Royale game on the Switch NSO service, and you know, I'm gonna be real with you, I don't really like F-Zero all that much. I'm sure some of you are expecting me to just say, hey, this game sucks, and then there you go, there's my YouTube career. I'm not gonna give you that satisfaction. The reality is, I did give this game a shot. I did a fairly decent job. It's not necessarily just a skill issue, but F-Zero and me have never clicked. As a result, I'm going to say that my opinion on F-Zero shouldn't really matter to anybody because I never know what I'm talking about, and that is totally fine, and I'm not even gonna give this a ranking, okay? We're gonna put this on its own little tier all by itself. It's the F-Zero tier, and you can make with that whatever you will, because quite frankly, if I put it where I really think it should go, I think people will attack me like in real life. No. You know what I did have fun with? Snipper clips. That was a pretty good game, right? Super early title for the eShop, and it was such a neat idea. You play as these weirdly shaped creatures and you're cutting out pieces of the other one. It is a perfect co-op game. And then they eventually added more stuff for like a 4-player mode, and dude, this is just so much fun, and I'm surprised that this is the only game in this franchise they didn't capitalize on it and make a sequel. But you know what? That may be for the best because these developers are actually the same ones behind Crow Country, one of the greatest horror games of all time, so what a crazy turnaround, huh? Snipper Clips and Snipper Clips Plus, one of the best co-op experiences on the console. I'm gonna give it a B. And you know what? For more co-op experiences, Box Boy plus Box Girl. Despite the last 3DS game being called Bye Bye Box Boy, that was clearly not bye bye because we got another one, and there's co-op in here. And what's great is the co-op is not here at the expense of really good puzzles. This is just a genuinely really fun puzzle game in single player or in co-op, and it has the most content of any Box Boy game to date. So yes, this is also gonna get a B. I'm a sucker for games featuring just tiny little guys, and we have just tiny little guy and tiny little girl, and I love them. 2 more eShop exclusives that I'm just so happy exist: Part-Time UFO and Pocket Card Jockey. The version of Pocket Card Jockey that's on the Switch is actually based on a mobile remake of the 3DS game, and I love the effort to take games that were otherwise exclusive to mobile and releasing them on console. Part-Time UFO is one of the only games I ever bought for my smartphone, and I loved it because it was made by HAL Labs, and I could not believe it was mobile exclusive for so long, and now it's on console, and it also has co-op, with an incredible style, really fun music, a good amount of replayability, solid puzzle game all around. That's getting a B. Pocket Card Jockey though, oh baby. Easily one of the best games that graced the 3DS eShop, and the fact now that it's on Switch and it actually kind of works pretty well. Like, the touchscreen stuff on 3DS is still a superior way to play this game because it is just a card game after all. But this translation over to a TV, I will take this because now we have 3D models, higher quality graphics for the 2D sprites, and it's just a really fun game all around. And what a crazy idea, huh? Solitaire that's also a horse race? I gotta give it an A. Dude, I have to give it an A. It's so good. Certainly better than another eShop game that Nintendo put funding behind for some reason. Good job. What a weird thing that happened, huh? This was during 2020 when everything was going crazy, so when Nintendo said, hey, we got another game coming out about working in an office, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna miss doing that, so I may as well play Good Job. And it's okay. There are many indie games that are like this, where it's just, hey, here's a playground, go nuts and destroy everything. Have fun. And that style doesn't really click for me. I like the stickman kind of isometric view that we got going on, and the mechanics do feel fine, but just not a whole lot of staying power for me. I'm gonna give Good Job a C. This is more as a mid job, honestly. I'm gonna put it at the same tier as Jump Rope Challenge, which, you know, is it a game? I don't know. It was 2020, so once again, it was like just weirdness going all around, but it's functional. It's a functional jump rope simulator. I expect this character to show up in Smash at some point, and people are gonna be like, "Oh wow, it's this guy," and then we'll all be happier for it. Is a C too high for this? I don't know. It does the job exactly as you want it to. And like they were threatening to take it off the eShop and make it a paid download, and then everyone said, no, don't do that, and now it's free forever. So have fun. What a thing this was. What a pocket of time. I also feel like I should bring up Working Zombies in this category. It's a game that barely anybody's ever heard of, and that's wild because this is a Switch console exclusive made by the developers Juniper, who are mostly known for releasing a million Picross games on the console. Like, they just make so many Picross games, there's just dozens of them, and they're all the same basically every single time. But there was one time they said, you know what, we should make an actual video game, and they did. And it's not bad. You're a zombie and you're trying to work a normal job, and it basically just like Diner Dash where you're just running around, and if a character needs something, you do it, and you just try to do it efficiently. It's fine, it's a C, but I just appreciate that they tried something different here, you know? And it's an exclusive. Who doesn't love a good exclusive? A lot of people, but hey, there it is. Oh boy, what else? There's the Arcade Archive section. Yeah, those are pretty cool. Like, the Arcade Archive stuff does show up on every console, and it's just a really quality emulator for a whole bunch of arcade games. So if you're interested in the arcade stuff, you have a never-ending treasure trove to dive into on every console, but on the Switch exclusively are a handful of Nintendo games. A lot of people were probably surprised to see Versus Super Mario Bros. Constantly at the top of the digital sales charts. They would buy it and go, wait a minute, this is a kind of a weird, this is not the Mario Bros. I know, because there's so many like weird little changes to it, but it's just neat that it's readily available, you know? The arcade Donkey Kong, DK Jr., and Donkey Kong 3, Excite Bike, Mario Bros, Pinball. We got Arcade Punch-Out and Super Punch-Out, which are wildly different than the games that we got on console, with the most baffling voice acting I've ever heard in my entire life. And they even ported Skyskipper, which is not like it's an incredible game by any means, but it is one of the very first arcade games that Nintendo ever made, and this was the first time it's ever gotten a re-release. That's so cool. It's kind of hard to grade these things individually because ultimately you are playing like pretty weird versions of these games because everyone's already played Mario Bros over and over again. The arcade version, like, yeah, it's there too, but only the most hardcore Nintendo fans would find any value in this. I'm going to give the Arcade Archives just in general, like an A, because it's a super cool thing coming from the developers at Hamster, and even if none of these games necessarily blow you away, it is very cool that the heavy majority of Nintendo's arcade past is now available for purchase. I like that. I'm not saying you should go out and play Arcade Archives Urban Champion, but hey, it's there. And yes, I also played the Stretchers, and I don't know, which is kind of okay. It's one of those you gotta work with your friend, but you're guaranteed to yell at your friend kind of games, you know? It's a physics-based puzzle game where you gotta rescue a bunch of these, like, not dead, but just like kind of dizzy civilians and bring them to the hospital. You just keep on doing that. Single player control's weird because you're controlling both characters with one controller, and that's bizarre. Once again, very clearly you're supposed to yell at your friends to get these things done in co-op, so if you like the style of game, have at it. There's ambulance driving in there too, and that's kind of cool, but I don't know, it's not really for me. I'm gonna give it a C. It's arguably the most original outing Nintendo has put out on the eShop, right? What an iconic character duo right there. Put them in Smash 2, you know? Put the Stretcher guys in there with the Jump Rope Challenge bunny. You got an S tier character right there. Listen, okay, I'm old enough to remember that during the Wii days, Nintendo really cared about their casual audience. They really wanted to get the grandmas and grandpas to play video games alongside their kids, right? You probably got your grandparents to play 1-2 Switch with you, right? How'd that turn out? Man, Nintendo's casual attempts this generation, 9 times out of 10, they have completely lost the plot. Let's just rattle off these, alright? 1-2 Switch and everybody 1-2 Switch. Those are getting Fs. I'm sorry, is that a hot take? The best thing to come out of everybody 1-2 Switch was that Nintendo hyped it by just saying, it's happening, you know, we have this game and it's coming out on Switch. And that's it, no hype, nothing, just it's happening. Whether you like it or not, DJ Horus is coming and you're gonna die. I thought maybe like the brain trainers that they put out on the Switch would have some potential, like Big Brain Academy on the Wii, actually a really fun multiplayer game. So when they said, okay, we're making a new one on the Switch, Big Brain Academy Brain versus Brain. Is weak as hell, dude. It's just a bunch of returning minigames. The multiplayer functionality is practically non-existent. You're just playing against ghosts of people, and you put like maybe 2 hours into this game, you're gonna knock out all the challenges and be done with it. Man, it's such a shame. It's getting a D. And you probably didn't even know that there's a brain age on the Switch because it didn't come out in America. It was Japanese and European exclusively. Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training. This is just a more bare bones version of Brain Training as well. It's a bunch of returning activities, and the one brand new thing being, okay, the game comes with a stylus. So if you play the game in handheld and want to do the math puzzles, you can do it with an actual plastic pen. Cool. It does use the IR camera as well for like a rock, paper, scissors game, and that's not fun. Like, that's not really training your brain because you're fighting with the camera's functionality to even see your hands in the first place. That's another D, man. That's a shame. They gotta make another one where Dr. Kawashima is Satan again. Nintendo Switch Sports also felt like it should have been such a slam dunk, you know? But similarly, there's not as much content here as there needs to be. I kinda like the new characters with the sports mates, and the games that are here are fine. But the over-reliance on needing to play these games online, the weird timed rollouts for the costumes that you can get, and just ultimately, now that all the updates are done, having way less games and way less personality than Wii Sports Resort, which should be the peak that they should have been striving for, is a damn shame. It's not an awful experience. If I go in, I'll still have a pretty fun time, but only for like 10 minutes and then I want to move on. Nintendo Switch Sports is getting a C, and I really, really hope they return to this soon, because I would really like to be in a time where Wii Sports Resort isn't the uncontested king in this market. There's all those fitness boxing games. They're not Nintendo developed, but they're exclusive. Nintendo funded them, and there's 5 of them. There's Fitness Boxing 1, 2, and 3. There's one based on Fist of the North Star, and one based on Hatsune Miku. What the hell are we doing here? This is so weird. It is a somewhat functional workout tool. Like, if you play the games on harder difficulties, you have to swing your arms a lot harder. So 2 songs in, you're going, wow, this is actually a bit of a workout. And if you play the Fist of the North Star one, you get to play in some of the anime scenes. And if you're playing the Hatsune Miku one, you're playing to some really cool J-pop. And like, okay, there's some potential here for sure. But I mean, across the board, these are all getting C's because, like, what else are we doing? Like, I do more wacky stuff like Hatsune Miku and maybe we'll talk, okay? You can't be on the same console as Ring Fit Adventure and expect me to put this on the same level. Like, Ring Fit not only gets you to sweat, which is of course what you want when you're doing an exercise game, but the actual game part of it is pretty fun. Like an on-rails platformer with RPG mechanics, and it all comes down to doing these weird things with the circle controller it comes with. Ring Fit Adventure is genuinely a really good game, and it's getting an A. It's a shame that this won't 100% be compatible with the Switch 2 because it needs a Switch 1 Joy-Con to go into the circle. But if you got one of those handy, who knows, 4K 120 FPS Ring Fit Adventure may be in your future. Then there's the whole Nintendo Labo experiment. I did a whole big video talking about every single thing you can do with this cardboard monstrosity, but you know, for the most part, it's not that good. The vehicle kit deserves some props because there's this mode where you can drive around this entire big open world and do a bunch of missions, almost like a predecessor to Mario Kart World, and it's locked behind software where you would not expect that to be the case. Vehicle kit specifically is going to get a B. The VR kit, certainly ambitious, and there are some third-party games that take advantage of it, and that's kind of cool, but it's really only cool for like 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to give that a C. The variety kit and the robot kit, after just going through this not that long ago, I'm giving them both D's. The same goes for Game Builder Garage. Games that are all about being creative should have a really high ceiling for what you can accomplish within the engine that these games provide, but for some reason, they made the ceilings incredibly low, and no third-party game really wanted to take advantage of them in a worthwhile way outside of Demo for the piano kit. That's it. That's like realistically the only cardboard set that I'm going to be happy about owning in 5-10 years. Does Endless Ocean Luminous count for a casual game? I feel like it does. There are some proper game mechanics in here as well, but this was always meant to be like a purely casual experience. You're going underwater and just finding and touching fish. Go. Without the knowledge of how the previous 2 Endless Ocean games operated, I really had no idea what to expect with Luminous, especially since like the free swim mode is like a bit of a roguelike because it's always going to be different every time you go under, and you may swim into other people if you're playing online. It's a very interesting concept that honestly, for the first couple hours, I was in love with. I actually got a lot of enjoyment of going in a random direction and finding a bunch of treasure, or finding a brand new fish species that I was going to be adding to my Fishopedia. And there's a story mode as well. It's not that great, and any spoken dialogue is done with a text-to-speech thing, and that sounds very weird, but okay, whatever. The free swim is where it's at, and even then, after like 2 hours, I felt like I had seen most of the game, and the enjoyment of finding brand new fish was quickly going away. I don't know, is that ironic to give it a C ranking? I mean, you're in the ocean, but I'm gonna give it a C ranking, right? Haha. I just wanted to end off by saying Clubhouse games on the Switch is genuinely like a really fun game, and not enough people give it credit. 51 worldwide classics. That's a big number. That's no number to sneeze at. There's a lot of games in this one game. And yeah, it's a lot of basic card games and very rudimentary board games, and some people argue that there's not enough content in here, but quite frankly, this game does exactly what it needs to do. I am booting this game up a shocking amount. This is one of the most fun multiplayer games on the entire Switch because it's good old reliable. If I'm not feeling up to playing a game of Mario Kart or Mario Party, I can just do some checkers and Mancala and Connect 4 and Yahtzee, and it's just a really fun time. Honestly, I'm gonna give this game an A. I do not think people give Clubhouse games enough credit. This is the best casual offering on the Switch. And if you find anybody saying that they prefer to play 1-2 Switch multiplayer over this, I don't trust them. Just send them to the gulags. They're not to be trusted. Alright, the final bunch of the pure Mario games, let's do this. The Mario spin-off, when you want to play as the red guy or the green guy, but not in a platformer or RPG sense, it's just where Mario Kart is and everything else is, right? Okay, so Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, S tier, easy, right? It's one of the highest selling games of all time. It is incredibly fun to play, arguably the pinnacle of Mario Kart gameplay, and with the booster course pass doubling the amount of courses, like dude, even if some of the graphics in them are not all that great, there is so much content here. This may still be a Wii U game at heart, but this is one of the most content-filled Mario games of all time, and it still has no right to look as good as it does. They were cooking on something else that was crazy on the Wii U. On the Wii U, they were doing graphics like this. Unbelievable. I can't give the same ranking to the other Mario Kart game, Mario Kart Live. Yeah, you remember that? 2020. Continuing to be a weird year. There aren't many other video games out there where the fun quality comes down to whether or not you have access to a hardwood floor. As someone who has primarily lived in places that have carpet as flooring, I have not really gotten to enjoy Mario Kart Live to its fullest. What a predicament, huh? It's certainly an interesting piece of tech being able to play a Mario Kart track in the real world with these gates that you have to place manually, and then the game on the TV screen is gonna have a bunch of wacky and crazy graphics, ooh. But once that novelty wears off, I just don't think it's that much fun. I think it's deserving of a D. Maybe you had a great experience with this game in your bedroom, I don't know, and I do still appreciate Nintendo trying something different, but this wasn't for me. And if you're not going to count Mario Kart Tour as Mario Kart 9, maybe we can count Mario Kart Live as Mario Kart 9 instead, huh? That's something worth arguing about in the comments. I think the Mario Party output on the console is pretty solid. It's one of the most white bread Mario Party experiences you can get, and there were definitely a lot of people gaslighting themselves into saying that this game was great because it wasn't as not Mario Party as Mario Party 10 was, when ultimately, it's just kind of okay. When you really look past the frying meat game that also looks incredibly good, there's not much to this one. It's getting a C rank, and I think that's totally okay because Mario Party Superstars and Super Mario Party Jamboree, they finally got it right. I think if you go into a really deep molecular level, you can really look at some of the minigames that they brought back in Superstars and go, okay, they ruined some of them. Like the one where you're skateboarding away from the giant piranha plant. Like, yeah, it's not as intense as it was back in the N64, I'll give you that. But when you want to just have a really fun Mario Party experience where you can go in and make impromptu friendships and impromptu rivalries like on the spot, Superstars was the perfect answer everyone had been wanting for a few years, and then Super Mario Party Jamboree came out, and for the first time in God knows how long, there was a brand new Mario Party game that I feel like we can all say was pretty awesome. A handful of new boards with some brand new mechanics, all brand new mini games, and just, oh man, they did such a good job here. I am so happy we have a Mario Party game that's actually really, really good. And I don't think it's like the original Super Mario Party where I'm gaslighting myself. Like, I think it's a really good game. And because Jamboree is all new, while Superstars is all old stuff, they both work hand in hand pretty well. It is a damn shame that Superstars never got any post-launch content for like GameCube game boards, but it is what it is. Both of these games are definitely getting an A rank, and I just really hope that we don't go back to the trenches again. Mario Party is good for the first time in a long time, and I would like for it to stay that way. And even though currently I am very positive about the Mario spin-off library thus far, they really up the sports games, didn't they? What happened here, man? Mario Golf Super Rush, you have a decent golf mechanic with a bunch of stuff tacked on that's not that fun. Most of the courses are generic too, so it's lacking a lot of the flavor that like Mario Golf World Tour had on the 3DS. Huge disappointment there. And the single player mode is so tedious and annoying, and I hate it so much, and just the core idea of going through it again fills me with dread. It's never gonna happen. This is technically an RPG, right? You're leveling up throughout the whole process. So, okay, the worst Mario RPG on this console, right there. Mario Strikers Battle League, what an easy layup that they screwed up. Mario Strikers is so much fun, man. What happened? It's so unfortunate because the core gameplay is not, there's just no content here. A shockingly limited roster of characters and stages, and unless you're playing online to participate in this Battle League idea, there is nothing for you. It looks good. Next Level Games always knows what to do with their animations, but gameplay wise, yeah, this is sadly a fail. It's getting a D. Mario Tennis Aces, thankfully, I could say is great and feel confident about it. Tennis mechanics are really good. The new stuff with the slowing down time and jumping in the air and then trying to aim your specific shot, like, oh, it's really intense. This is damn near a fighting game, honestly. And the single player mode is actually enjoyable. You got a stupid story about like a tennis god being resurrected and is cursing all the other characters and you gotta travel the world in order to save them. That is the exact level of stupidity I want in something like this. What's a shame is the fumbling of Mario Golf and Mario Strikers. I think you have people lying to themselves and saying tennis deserves to be in that same conversation as another failure. But nah, man, Tennis Aces is great, and I would honestly argue it's the best Mario Tennis to date. Mario Tennis should not be more of an intense multiplayer experience than Mario Strikers, but that's where we are. Oh, and last but certainly least, we can't forget about Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, right? You know, the 2020 Olympic Games that totally happened. Mario and Sonic are the only people who participated in it, so that's pretty cool. This is another shame because I actually really liked the Olympics games, especially on the Wii. Absolute guilty pleasures. And I will give the Switch game credit, I really enjoy the story mode. Everything looks like a really choppy, Newgrounds styled animation from like 20 years ago, with this weird mishmash of 8-bit and 16-bit sprites with a story that I guess I'm supposed to care about by rescuing these characters. I don't know, man. It's just a weird minigame fest, and I had a good time with it. But the actual Olympic Games themselves, like diving into the menus and playing through the different events, not that fun of a time. It needed more unlockables, it needed more world building with the story mode that they were attempting to do. It needed more fan service, the dream events that are always such a big deal with these games, they dropped the ball in this version, and that's just a shame. If this truly is the final Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games title, then sadly this series is going out with a whimper. It's getting a C. Quite the wide range, huh? 4 really good games, and 4 really not good games. You're batting a 50% average there, Mario. Do better next time. Back in my initial 3DS retrospective video, I mentioned that I am actually a big fan of modern Fire Emblem, Awakening being my first full game in the series. Since becoming a fan and looking at the lineup on the Switch, I can say that I've played all of them, but realistically for this video, if I'm going to condense all of my thoughts into a nice, tight package, I'm going to skip out on a lot of details. There are multiple, very long RPGs filled with so many different mechanics and characters, and you would think that just by having 2 main Fire Emblem games on this console, they would be pretty similar, right? No. They're actually pretty drastically different. Fire Emblem Three Houses is the console's premier title, and this tried to do so much for the first appearance on a console in a number of years. Essentially, you only get to experience the entirety of the story by playing through the entire game 3 different times. You join one of the houses and you have to do an entire school year 3 different times, and there are so many differences between each of the 3 routes, and one of them even has a second ending. Like, there's so much content just there, and that's not even talking about the DLC that came out afterwards. But the whole school idea really adds so much to the base Fire Emblem formula, so much so that some traditional Fire Emblem fans are actually not a fan of it. But for me, a lot of this evoked modern Persona vibes, and I'm a big fan of those games, so I was a big fan of these too. I love basically the entire roster of students you get access to. I love all the music, I love the set pieces, I think the story is really cool. I honestly really love Fire Emblem Three Houses. So much so that when they added Byleth to Super Smash Bros., I wasn't even mad. I actually thought that was a perfect inclusion. It's not my favorite Fire Emblem game, but I really do think it is a phenomenal experience, and I'm going to give it an S. I think they did a phenomenal job, especially when you compare it to Fire Emblem Engage, which goes for an entirely different vibe, and while some people I have seen give it some really high praise, I'm not really one of them, sadly. Engage is a fun game. On a mechanical level, everything is there. The traditional tactical combat is there, and that's like the best thing this game has going for it. The style is a lot more vibrant and cartoony. Fan service is sort of the name of the game here by having these Engage rings that can summon so many different Fire Emblem heroes from the series past, many of which the English-speaking audience has never really gotten to see before. And the story, it's really weak and it's really lame, and I think that was by design, because the production values are really good, but this is really like baby's first Fire Emblem game that rewards you for at least knowing who some of the characters like Marth and Roy are. It is fun, and I do think all these decisions were made by design. I think this is the exact game they wanted it to be, but it did not connect with me anywhere near what Three Houses did, so honestly, I'm going to give it a C. But it's so interesting because I know there are people who are going to swap those rankings, but I calls them like I sees them. The rest of the Fire Emblem roster on this console is kind of weird because we got Tokyo Mirage Sessions, a port of the Wii U game, and it's like baby's first Persona game, and I do not like it. I'm not really a fan of the characters. I don't really like the aesthetics that they're going with. I think the music is really cool and the battle system is fine, but I really could not connect with anything in this game. But obviously, it's very competently made, so I'm going to give this a C as well. But then there's also the Fire Emblem Warriors games, huh? Fan service is all these games are about, right? Well, I'm going to be honest, I believe the original Fire Emblem Warriors is the weakest Nintendo Warriors game to date. There's such an over-reliance on characters from Awakening and Fates exclusively, and in my opinion, it is a really weak roster. So many of the characters play identically to each other. I don't like the adventure mode that takes place on the actual Fire Emblem maps. Like, I think that just doesn't really hit the same way the adventure mode in the Hyrule Warriors games had. And the story, quite frankly, I think it's bad. I just don't like the original characters. I don't like the story. Like, yeah, it's a fine enough game, I guess, but man, I actively do not like this game. I'm gonna give it a D. But I can't say the same for Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Now, what's interesting is Three Houses has so many different plot lines that you can choose in the game. This kind of acts like an alternative storyline for that game, and it's not really canon necessarily, but it does still feel like a proper follow-up to Three Houses. It's just that instead of the tactical combat, you're doing the Warriors combat, though there is tactical elements to it. And honestly, I really like this game. Very similar in premise to Age of Calamity. You take a very popular game and instead of making just a fan service fest, you do like a sequel with a new gameplay style, and I actually think that's a recipe for success. It's all obviously a matter of whether or not you like the button mashing gameplay of the Warriors games, but I do, and I already love Three Houses, so I was gonna like this game as well. I'm gonna give it a B. It is a great accompaniment to what I consider to be one of the better Fire Emblem games out there with Three Houses. Success for sure. Finally, do you remember when they localized the NES game for the first time, Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light? 2020, man, what a weird year. They made a special edition for this. It is the very first time the game has ever been localized officially. It's using a different emulator than the one that you have on the Nintendo Switch Online service. And like Mario 35, it has been delisted, so unless you can find an unused code, you can't play this game. But I also don't really know why you would need to, because if you're that much of a Fire Emblem fan, you've probably already played a fan translation or plan on doing it in the future. But it's an official release. I don't know. This is weird all around. It's gonna get a D. I just think old Fire Emblem is very archaic, but you know, cool on them for localizing it, I guess. All I'm saying is play Three Houses. Three Houses is very good. Next. Now we got all the games that take place in the Mario universe, but Mario is barely there. A game like Luigi's Mansion 3, which is still one of the best looking games Nintendo's ever put out. It's gorgeous still. Next level games, we're cooking something crazy with this, like the animations, the lighting, it all looks phenomenal. And it's one of the highest selling games on this console too, like this is a certified success. And yeah man, it is really fun. I've accepted that we're not really gonna get the vibes of the original GameCube Luigi's Mansion again with the eeriness that that mansion had to provide, because here like, obviously everything is so much more brighter, the ghosts are a lot more cartoony, there's like proper combat now because you can take the ghosts and slam them into the ground. I certainly would like a little bit more of a spooky vibe like the original game had, but hey, this game is really fun. Every floor is super varied. It looks gorgeous once again. There's a pretty good co-op mode, and they gave Luigi a gooey companion with Gooigi. That's brilliant. I love this game to death. The only flaw I really have with it is I wish you were on the floors a little bit longer. It feels like you go through them pretty quickly, but otherwise, not that big of a deal. They also released the game worldwide on October 31st, which kind of defeats the point because then you're mostly playing through this game in November after Halloween. You didn't really think that through Nintendo, I'm gonna be honest. But still, in my opinion, undoubtedly the best Mario adjacent game on the console, Luigi's Mansion 3 getting an S rank. Definitely can't say the same for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Man, why did they do this? Luigi's Mansion 2 it's a fine enough video game. Going with the bite-sized mission approach and completely eliminating any eeriness whatsoever, it was such a weird experimental take on Luigi's Mansion that outside of introducing Polterpup, which is absolutely one of the greatest things Nintendo's ever done, this game itself is just a big old pile of whatever, and the fact they made an HD remaster of this and not also doing the 3DS version of the first Luigi's Mansion, which in my opinion is the superior version of the game that could really use a console port, is a baffling ass decision, especially since they charged full price for this stupid game. Scarescraper is very fun, but that is not enough to justify this game's mere existence. I'm going to give Luigi's Mansion 2 HD a C. And you know what? I almost feel like that's a little bit too high, but I've already said it, so I'm committing to it. We can throw the Wii U port of Captain Toad in here too, why not? When a game jumps from one console to another, you want to see some new stuff, and admittedly, just the inclusion of taking the final levels that were 3D World inspired before and making them Odyssey inspired, it does mess with the very necessary to take super seriously Mario timeline, but hey, there's new stuff. They eventually added some DLC with brand new stages and a full game you can play in co-op now. That's really cool. I love Captain Toad. I think it's a brilliant game. If not, a little bit too easy. But if you haven't played it before, definitely recommend doing so. I'm going to give this package a B. But then the other Wii U port, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, quite frankly, is one of the greatest platformers of all time. People will dog on Nintendo until the end of time because they charged full price for this, and it was actually $10 more than the Wii U release, which was already discounted heavily by the time the Switch version came out, and I'm sorry, Funky Kong, I don't know if that was worth it. But I couldn't help myself, man. Tropical Freeze is such a master class in platforming design. Every single stage tells a story, and that's on top of having the bare basics that you want. Really cool aesthetics and fantastic music. Considering Donkey Kong is jumping to the third dimension again with Bonanza, this may be the last 2D Donkey Kong game for quite a while, and if that's the case, honestly, I'm okay with that. It is really easy to accept that it's going to be very, very difficult to top Tropical Freeze. It was an S tier on Wii U, and it's an S tier on Switch. Funky Kong doesn't really change the score, but he's here now. New funky mode, baby. They should have done that for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, you know? That would have been great. Upon replaying Returns again, yes, it is a very, very good platformer. I just think Tropical Freeze is better. Coming off as a sort of reimagining of the original game by going just with the forest aesthetic, and then you go into a factory, like it really doesn't do anything anywhere near as crazy as Tropical Freeze would do, but this is still a very solid platformer with so many levels that are just pure highlights. The introduction of the shadow stages, like that alone, deserves so many points. But after recently replaying both of these modern DK games back to back, Returns definitely feels a little more repetitive, less filled with interesting ideas, and for some of the later stages, honestly a little bit of frustration. Doesn't make it any less of a fantastic game though, but I'm going to settle on an A score. Does not feel right to put this on the same tier as Tropical Freeze because that game deserves to be in a whole tier on its own. What else is there? There are the WarioWare games. We got 2 of them on one console. That's crazy. That hasn't happened in a while. WarioWare Get It Together and WarioWare Move It. One game that changes the core idea of what it means to even be a WarioWare game, and one game that sticks traditional as a sort of sequel to Smooth Moves on the Wii. And both of these games, in my opinion, are really good. It's kind of like clockwork. Every time a WarioWare game comes out, people are surprised at how little content there is. It's all based on replayability. You can get through the story mode in like 2 or 3 hours, and then it's all based on you going through all the extra modes if you want to deal with some high score challenges, if you want to play the same minigames over and over again to see just how long you can last. That's what a WarioWare game is. And maybe I'm settling for just too little, but I love both of these games. The idea of playing as a whole wide range of different characters that change up every single microgame and get it together, I think is great. I think finally using the Joy-Cons in a game that really feels like it's being pulled from the Wii era, I think that's great too. Plus we got a whole redesign of the entire cast of Diamond City, and I love that. I love all these characters to death. Both of these WarioWare games are great. I do want to give the notch to Get It Together because there's this Wario Cup mode that introduced weekly challenges with online leaderboards, and I was addicted to that for a while, and there's no equivalent in Move It, but even still, I think it's fair to give both these games a B. I love WarioWare to death, but realistically, this is about where the ceiling is. I think these are realistically some of the best games in the series, and I don't really know how they can make them better outside of just doing them again. But regardless, I'm a WarioWare fan, and you should be too. Princess Peach Showtime was a weird one because, like, it's fine. I just don't know what they were trying to accomplish here. It's a cavalcade of different ideas in every single stage with the costumes that Peach can put on, but there's never really like a payoff. You got like 10 different costumes and every single level gives you a different one to play as, and it's fun-ish, you know, it's just you never know what you're gonna get into until you dive on in, and that's kind of cool. But after just a few hours of trying out a whole bunch of different things, the game just stops. Like you do the final boss and then that's it. There's not much of a payoff in anything that goes on here. It's a weird game. This is a very weirdly structured game, but I still kind of liked it, and I'm happy that Peach got her own game again. But also its performance is shockingly bad for like a main first-party Nintendo game. It's a weird release, man. I'm gonna give Princess Peach Showtime a B, and I worry that we've already seen the peak of good feel with like Kirby's Epic Yarn and Yoshi's Woolly World, because even when you look at the game that followed up Woolly World with Yoshi's Crafted World, this really feels like the culmination of a rocky development cycle. It's another game where there are a bunch of neat ideas, but things don't really seem to come together smoothly in a way that you would want it to. Rather than trying to make just a really fun 2D platformer that takes place in an arts and crafts world, they already did that with Woolly World, they tried to do something different. There's kind of 3D elements because you can go in the foreground and background, and then you can replay stages in reverse, but the camera goes 180 so you can see behind certain elements, and there's a lot of collectibles that take a whole lot of grinding to get every single one. And the music, boy, they goofed that up. There's a lot of not great tracks in this game. It's not bad, and there are some standout segments of this game, especially with like the one horror level that's partway through. That was actually like kind of scary when I first got into it because I didn't see it coming. But ultimately, the Yoshi franchise is one with so many highs and so many lows, and this is sadly on the lower end of the spectrum. I'm gonna give Yoshi's Crafted World a C. It's right up there with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, and I think that's fair. At the end of the day, I will always appreciate Nintendo giving the spotlight to different characters in the Mario universe, and I hope that does not change anytime soon. I just don't think we should stop bullying Nintendo for porting Luigi's Mansion 2 exclusively to the console. Like, that was weird, man. Why'd you do that? Let's just go ahead and get it over with. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they both get S ranks. I mean, duh. There have been so many conversations over the years since Breath of the Wild's initial launch as to whether or not this should be how Zelda is handled. Is this truly a Zelda game? Then we got another game with Tears of the Kingdom and people go, it's just more of the same. It was $10 more and you just have an underworld that's like kind of not all that interesting, but oh, there's stuff in the sky now, woohoo. This is one of those games where maybe at some point I'll do a more deep dive on like this entire era of Zelda, but I love these games to death, and even though there are definitely so many things I would have done differently, like when it comes to the shrines being very repetitive, when it comes to the dungeons in Breath of the Wild being non-existent. I think the opening to Tears of the Kingdom goes on for far too long. I was getting pretty bored and worried that the rest of the game was just not gonna hit, but at the end of the day, when you really dive into this adventure, they're incredible from like almost start to finish, and especially the end game of Tears of the Kingdom, like, oh, just a masterclass in my opinion. Again, maybe in the future I'll do a deeper dive into these games, but S ranks I think are easily deserved. The rest of Zelda's lineup on this console is pretty interesting. A full remake of Link's Awakening from the Game Boy days? That's incredible. As far as retro Zelda is concerned, this is one of the best. And I love this adaptation to HD with this sort of toy-like aesthetic. There are a few performance issues on the Switch which really make no sense, but this is still, in my opinion, the definitive way to experience this game. It's gonna get an A. And when that team was tasked with making a full-blown sequel with Echoes of Wisdom, the very first ever true Zelda game, I think they did a fantastic job. You basically take the creativity and wonder of Link's Awakening, combine it with the Tears of the Kingdom-like approach of like, hey, here's a puzzle, figure it out however you want to, as long as you get to the end, it's a win. I love this game too. Plus, it's like one of the only times a Zelda game has had actual platforming challenges when you go into the alternate world and you gotta platform around as Zelda. Ooh, I love that. Ooh, I love that a whole lot. I think I still prefer Link's Awakening when you just compare the two top-down Zelda games on this system, but even still, I think it's deserving of another A rank. Such a brilliant move to make a fantastic remake of a classic Game Boy game and then use that knowledge to make a brand new title. I want to see more of that, because it's a lot more interesting than when they ported Skyward Sword to the Switch. And like, it's fine. I love Skyward Sword actually. I'm one of the people out there who thinks this is a fantastic game, but this jump to the Switch really left a lot to be desired. It's functional now with the proper controller, and if that's all you want, it's still a great game and it's gonna get an A rank as a result, but I just think they could have done a lot more with just adapting it to a controller, because man, just having everything done with the right stick, I guess that's just a curse of this game. There's not much more they could have done with it, outside of, you know, not making the fast travel system locked behind the amiibo. That was stupid. And also the entire Switch generation managed to come and go with no Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD, huh? I feel like a lot of people are losing money on that very easy bet. Now, if you watch the Fire Emblem segment of this video, you already know that I am a fan of the Warrior-styled gameplay, so when it comes to Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition and Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, I really enjoyed these too. I'm really just a sucker for fan service, man. I think the roster of characters in Hyrule Warriors is so cool. I think having cuts like Marin and Ravio, and having them have these fully unique movesets, it's just so cool, and there's just so much content there that yes, when it comes down to like fully completing this game, it is absolute torture. They should have scaled back intensely because, oh my god, was it going to take like 1,000 hours to get every single thing in this game? Madness. But I can't deny that I still had a ton of fun with this game. It's just the ceiling for this game is still at like a B tier, so I'm going to say it's a B. No matter how much fan service there is, Warriors is still an inherently repetitive series, so I think that's fair. They did really try to make Age of Calamity different though, by condensing everything about Hyrule Warriors into the Breath of the Wild universe. Similar to Three Hopes for Fire Emblem, this acts like a full-on alternative story or sequel, whatever you want to call it, to Breath of the Wild. It just feels right going through these areas and playing as these characters and taking down these enemies, and then the music feels very reminiscent of Breath of the Wild, the cutscenes and the overworld map. There's nowhere near as much of an overload of content as there was in the original Hyrule Warriors, and that's a good thing. And unlike the weaker Warriors games like Fire Emblem Warriors, there's still a lot of variety in this roster. It's not canon. I know some people take that very seriously. This is not a canon event in the Breath of the Wild timeline, but I don't care about that. That did not hinder my enjoyment whatsoever. So once again, upper echelon of the Warriors games, that's gonna get another B. A couple confusing things for the Zelda franchise for sure. The performance in Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, Skyward Sword locking mechanics behind the amiibo. Yeah, you're not batting 100 here, but it's still a really good lineup, and some of the best games of all time are on this console, and that's a big deal. But then, do you remember when they gave an indie studio Zelda and they made a rhythm top-down Zelda game with Cadence of Hyrule? What was that all about? There is still an immense wow factor to this existing. I had thought when this came out, Nintendo was going to be giving out their franchises to more indie devs, and that didn't happen, which makes this release all the more confusing. And it's fun, you know, the music is obviously a highlight, having a whole bunch of remixes from Zelda past, but honestly, the gameplay loop, I'm not that big of a fan of, but I also am not really that big of a fan of Crypt of the Necrodancer. This is the better game of the two, so I do still enjoy this, but when I went back to replay it, I didn't really get all that into it. I'm going to give it a C. The wow factor when this game first came out, oh bro, this was an A tier because I just couldn't believe what I was playing, but after taking a step back, it's getting a C. I really just want more indie devs to work on Nintendo games. Give me a Metroid game by the Pizza Tower devs. Why not? Oh, speaking of, actually. For the first time in this video, we have a series that is batting 100. Metroid Dread and Metroid Prime Remastered are both easy S tiers. Like, I don't think there's any conversation to be had about this. These are some of the best in their genres. Just the fact that Metroid Dread even exists after years and years and years and years of just speculating what this mysterious Dread game could be, and we got it, and it's fantastic. Oh, what a good ending to that story. You would kind of think that with the indie game scene being so overrun with Metroidvanias that maybe the idea of an official Metroid game coming from Nintendo, it would lessen the impact, but nah man, having a full-blown sequel to Metroid Fusion, this is Metroid 5. The desolate landscapes and the vibes they're in are just fantastic. I love the Emmys and the intensity they bring in when you go into the Emmy zones. Samus plays fantastically and her path of upgrades is so satisfying. And the lore that this adds to the Metroid universe is fantastic as well. The only downsides I have on this is there's a lack of really memorable tunes that you would see in other Metroid games, and even down to like the item get jingle not being as catchy, but really now, that's such a minor thing in the grand scheme of it all. To think that this came to us from the studio that made the Castlevania Lords of Shadow game for 3DS is remarkable. And when you look at the 3D side of things with Metroid Prime Remastered, I mean, that was already one of the best games of all time, quite frankly. And this transition to HD with all of these brand new textures and the lighting engine, and dude, it looks phenomenal. When you compare this to the likes of Mario 3D All-Stars and Skyward Sword, like it blows those out of the water. And the fact they went the extra mile to make sure that not only do you have standard dual analog control, but also gyro aiming, kind of reminiscent of the Wii Metroid Prime trilogy. I mean, easy definitive version of this incredible game. That's an S tier for sure. Now, obviously, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is also a Switch game, but with the Switch 2 being a thing, there's going to be conversations around that. Obviously, another main Switch game would be good around here, and I'm sure that's going to be another S tier, but we got two incredible games here that are must-plays no matter what your opinions are on the Metroid franchise. You gotta play these games. They're so good. Metroid went from dead to back in the best way possible. Love this. Never take for granted the efforts of any company to make sure that the entire franchise is available on one console. For Pikmin, not only do we get a port of Pikmin 3 with Deluxe that included new content and controller modifications to not need the gamepad, we got nice HD ports of Pikmin 1 and 2, and a full-blown sequel with Pikmin 4. Right up there with Metroid Dread as a game that we almost thought would never happen, and it's here now, and it's incredible. Yeah, we're still missing Hey Pikmin, but I don't know, I feel like a lot of people don't really care about it. I like the game and I don't really care about it. Pikmin is one of my favorite franchises ever. This real-time strategy component that you have when you're exploring these mysterious lands and fighting your way against these weird insect creatures just to gather a bunch of goodies, it's satisfying in every single game they do it. There's obviously some controls and mechanics that feel pretty outdated when you go back to play Pikmin 1 and 2, but they're still fantastic games. Pikmin 1 is one of my most replayed games of all time, easily 24 attempts just in this one game alone. I played through the entirety of this game on a single airplane flight, alright? That was a magical experience. Pikmin 1, S tier, no questions asked. Pikmin 2 is also very good, and usually in retrospect when I think about this game, I want to put this in an S tier as well, but when I play it, Oh boy, do I get frustrated. This game is mean, dude. The introduction of the randomly generated caves that you go down, it does add a ton of content to the original Pikmin formula, but the second half of the game, man. Rocks coming up out of nowhere, bombs coming out of nowhere, enemies coming out of nowhere, you're gonna die a whole lot, and a lot of times, it's not really your fault. And if you want to do a run where you don't lose any Pikmin, get used to pressing the home button and closing it and rebooting it just over and over again. I did that a whole lot. I still love Pikmin 2, do not get me wrong, but those frustrations, I cannot let them slide. It's gonna get an A tier. Though the multiplayer mode still slaps. That's a very good multiplayer mode. And then Pikmin 3, going back to the formula of Pikmin 1 with no underground caves, but expanding on it a bunch with extra characters and Pikmin types. This game is incredible. Easily one of my favorite games on the Wii U, and when it comes to the transition to the Switch by removing the gamepad, I was worried it was going to be handled with grace, and I think they nailed it as good as they possibly can. Obviously, planning your routes by having to pause the game and check out the map is a little bit different than doing it on the fly with the gamepad screen, but even still, figuring out what you're doing with your 3 captains and how to plan everything for every single day and just min-maxing the entire process is so much fun. And then with Deluxe, they added so much to this. I mentioned this before, but difficulty options, playable story components with Olimar, full story mode co-op, even a full slate of achievements, they went above and beyond. This is like the best port to Switch there is. Another S tier, what a surprise. But then Pikmin 4, dude, like, oh man. I said this in my solo Pikmin 4 video, and I will still hold to it. This is one of the most content-dense games Nintendo has ever put out, and it is one of the best games Nintendo has ever put out. There is so much here, and none of it feels like filler in my opinion. The reintroduction of caves, but having them all be themed this time around without the randomly generated component. The Dandori segments, these are such a fun twist on the main Pikmin gameplay. And then you got additions like the nighttime mode where you can finally travel these areas at night and things are a little more daunting, but there's like a tower defense mode now, that's super cool. The only thing that I'll really give to Pikmin 3 over 4 is the bingo battle is definitely a whole lot better than the Dandori battles you can do with other people. The multiplayer is a lot stronger in 3 for sure, but as a single player adventure, it took so long to finally get Pikmin 4 after Miyamoto said it was a thing over a decade ago. That wait was worth it. Pikmin has an all-star showing on this console. Outside of Pikmin 2 getting an A tier, they all get S tiers, and quite frankly at this point I would even accept Hey Pikmin HD. Why not? You know, that was a fine game. Splatoon is an interesting series because each entry iterates on itself, and on a surface level they do feel very samey. However, if you dive deep on into all the intricate changes, and especially the new single player modes, they actually put more work into these games than I think people give them credit for. It doesn't help that with Splatoon 2 and then Splatoon 3, they both launched with pretty slow rollouts of content. It feels like you only really get the full gist of a Splatoon game months after they originally come out. But let's not kid ourselves here, the main Splatoon gameplay, the Turf War battles are a blast, and yeah, if you want to go into those intricate details about the weapon changes between 2 and 3 and the way that some modes are handled, like, hey, Salmon Run was a weird timed event exclusively in Splatoon 2, and now it's a permanent thing in Splatoon 3. Cool. The single player campaign in Splatoon 2 is very similar to the one in Splatoon 1, but considering that game didn't come to Switch, then I guess, you know, this is fine. When you move on to the DLC, Octo Expansion, that is genuinely a fantastic time. And then they took all of that effort to make Octo Expansion its own original thing and channeled it into the main single player mode for Splatoon 3. That campaign is really fun too. So much so that when that game got DLC with Side Order, it completely changed the core gameplay loop and now turned it into a roguelike, and that is so fun as well. But it's also easy to get lost in the whole idea of like the DLC also included just the Splatoon 1 lobby, and like you couldn't really do anything with it. It was just if you wanted to change the lobby, you could do it, and that was part of the paid DLC for that game. A lot of weird decisions, for sure. But looking at both of these games as a whole, I gotta give them both A ranks because at the end of the day, they're just really fun. They're really fun gameplay modes with a lot of fun variations. Salmon Run is incredible. The single player modes for Octo Expansion and Splatoon 3 are fantastic times. And my only real issue is I want them to dive more into the world building of Splatoon instead of leaving it all to the lore logs that you have to unlock and read afterwards. I've been doing these deeper dives into the single player modes of these games back on my second channel, so if you want to hear more about my Splatoon thoughts, there you go. But yeah, both A ranks, I think that makes sense. Hopefully Switch 2 gives us a brand new Splatoon experience. I will be there. If you're with me, throw a woomy in the chat, I want to hear it. Dude, how much time is left in the video? There's no way I'm going to be able to do a deep dive on all the Xenoblade games, are you kidding me? For one, similar to Pikmin, it is very commendable that Nintendo took the effort to make sure every single Xenoblade game is now on one console. That is a huge deal. because these are some of the greatest RPGs of all time. It truly is impossible to summarize why all of these games are fantastic in such a short amount of time. This may be something I have to do in a deeper dive later on, but from the landscapes to the soundtrack to the characters to the story beats, everything about all of these games is some of the best this genre has to offer. I am one of the people who thinks that Xenoblade 2 is a little bit too anime for my liking. I'm not really a big fan of the cast of characters. They're a little too out there for me. But even still, man, like the gameplay and the music, like everything is still super fun in that game. So even though that might actually be my least favorite of the entire series, that's still getting an A. Like Xenoblade 2, A rank, there you go, there's the first one. Honestly, the DLC for Xenoblade 2, Torna, the Golden Country, I like a lot more than the main game, but that really fits into why Xenoblade 2 overall gets an A. I'm not gonna rank it on its own, even though it got its own individual physical release. Don't worry about it. Getting the first game that was a Wii game that looked ugly as hell, but it worked back in 2011, and giving it a whole new slate of textures and lighting and an epilogue story, like, oh, that was so cool. The definitive edition of Xenoblade, a remarkable game. One of the few times I've taken a super long RPG and was willing to play it through more than once. Just a magical game from start to finish. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, getting an S rank. And then we got Xenoblade 3. Clearly the overly anime approach of Xenoblade 2 rubbed enough people the wrong way that they scaled it back for the third game. And man, this game is something special. One of my favorite casts of characters of all time. The world building is unlike anything else. I was so invested in every single thing that was happening at all times. Every single side quest feels almost just as important as any mainline story quest, which is remarkable. And in a situation where if you know, you know, I'm obviously not going to spoil it here, there are certain story beats that have messed with me to the core, and I still think years later I have not emotionally recovered from them. And that's okay, because it was such a worthwhile experience. I think I still prefer Xenoblade 1 overall, but the highs of Xenoblade 3 are way, way higher. That's another easy S rank for sure. And if you have not played the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy yet, you really, really need to, because oh my god, your life will be so much better once you do. And then you play the DLC, Future Redeemed, which is this crazy level of payoff after dedicating yourself to this entire franchise. Like, oh my god, I love Xenoblade so much. But more recently, we got Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, another game people thought wouldn't happen. To quickly summarize, this is a very different Xenoblade experience. Like, the core gameplay is there and the giant worlds are there, but the story beats and how you're handling side quests and whatnot, it's all very different. You land on an alien planet after a giant intergalactic war, and then you kind of just have the entire alien world to explore from the very beginning. There is a linear story and you do level up in traditional means, but truly, from the second you start this game, you could go to every single inch of this planet and explore everything this game has to offer. You're just gonna die if you do so. You're gonna die a lot. But then you get like a giant mech and you're able to fly across the entire landscapes, and god, I love this game so much. I think at the end of the day, I'm still gonna give it an A rank because the characters aren't super memorable, there's an over-reliance on side quests, and all that stuff is so good, don't get me wrong, but it lacks a lot of the highs that make 1 and 3 so special in my eyes. But even still, man, play Xenoblade. At the end of the day, just I don't really care. Start with Xenoblade 1, play Xenoblade X, I don't care, just play the numbered ones in order, and you'll be fine. God, I gotta do a bigger video on Xenoblade one day. Before we truly wrap things up, I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a lot of the third-party hits that had a big part in making the Switch lifecycle so special. We won't rank them today, but they're still worth talking about. Something like the Star Fox content in Starlink. You forgot about this too, didn't you? It was okay. It was actually like a partnership made in heaven for Fox to be in this game. Like, it plays really well, like it's actually a gameplay style that fits in super well for an expansive Star Fox game, but obviously, it's pretty forgettable, so moving on. Square Enix had a really strong partnership with Nintendo, having timed exclusivity for Dragon Quest XI-S, the first Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, Live Alive, which is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and you have true console exclusives with Dragon Quest Treasures, Chocobo GP, Bravely Default 2, that mediocre port of The World Ends With You, oh my god, that was there as well. Capcom gave us exclusive Monster Hunter content for a while, that was crazy too. Sega gave us a gem with Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, which to this day is still exclusive. I do expect that to change at some point, but hey, for now, it's still only on Switch. Disney Illusion Island is a really fun platformer that was timed exclusive for a long time. Puzzle Bobble Every Bubble, a brand new Puzzle Bobble game that once again, exclusive to the Switch. You got indie gems like Golf Story and Vitamin Connection and Fast RMX. Goodfield, the guys behind Princess Peach Showtime, gave us a really fun 3D platformer throwback with Bakaru. Nintendo published the Switch port of Go Vacation, which is just an odd pull, but there's another one. You almost forget that Deadly Premonition got a sequel on the console too. Plus we got ports of Baden Kaitos 1 and 2, like man, there is so much to make the Switch library special. At the end of the day here, I really feel like it's undeniable that the Nintendo Switch has one of the strongest console libraries of all time, right up there with the PS2, I don't know what, the DS, the GBA, whatever console you want to talk about, the Switch is up there as one of the all-time greats. You throw in some notable third-party games where Switch is just a great platform to play them on, dude, what a fantastic time I've had over these last, 8 years with the Nintendo Switch. As we turn the page to the Nintendo Switch 2, I felt like it was only right to finally give the Nintendo Switch 1 its flowers. And if you haven't been keeping score, here's my ultimate tier list. I think I got it all right. I'm sure this won't lead to any arguing on social media whatsoever. If you want to pause and analyze, here's your time to do so. Okay. Be sure to stay tuned for Switch 2 content coming very, very soon. Subscribe for more Nintendo content in general anyway, because I have a lot of stuff in the works that I think you're going to be happy with. And I feel like there's just something I'm forgetting. Oh god, that's right. I forgot to talk about the calculator app. This is exclusive too. Ah, damn it, my tier list is ruined.